whenever someone pitches, we always want to know what's their exit plan.
Mm,
So you build with the end in mind, and that's what I took
mm.
from that. Because because as VCs, we make our money. Same thing with private equity, we make our money from when the business is sold. So we have to hear or see a path to an exit. And the reason why I say that is because when you think of small businesses, that's where a lot of us, minorities play at. We never think about selling,
No.
but wealth is created on the exit.
Okay. What's up, y'all? This your boy Malcolm Locks everywhere, and this is the Principal Protocol, where we talk about all things business, entrepreneurship, esports, tech, and sometimes politics. And I have a great guest here today. One of my really good friends, and he's done so many amazing things in the business and tech and startup and angel investing and all types of industries. He's just a mind for business. My guy Pedro Moore. What's up, Pedro? How you feeling, bro?
I'm well, man. How you making out, man? I appreciate that intro as well.
Man, that's because you the guy.
Oh well, thanks. Nah, I don't see it that way, but I appreciate that.
You the guy, man. Pedro is such a brilliant mind when it comes to business, when it comes to just knowing this industry as a whole, entrepreneur, and just like I said, a
Mhm.
great business mind. And I'm glad that you gave me some of your time today. So
Oh,
let's just get it started right off from the rip, bro. Who
sure.
are you, Pedro? Where are you from?
Yeah.
Who are you?
So this may help or hurt, but born and raised Delaware, and my family's from North Carolina and Chester, PA. But I'm a lover of business and entrepreneurship, and have always been. I was that kid that in high school I'll be trying to sell you candy or some comic book cheat codes,
A real hustler.
music. Yeah, I was that guy. And when I say not even high school, middle school, whatever it was, I remember I was selling music and I was able to pay for my own homecoming suit as a result of that. And little things like that is accomplishment when you have no money, have no job. You know what I mean?
Word.
And parents ain't trying to pay for nothing. So that's victory in my world. But um, fast forwarding, man, because of my love of entrepreneurship and business, I got in the world of I started entrepreneur too. I started a couple of businesses, but I got more into like more of investing because that allows me to kind of participate in multiple different categories of businesses, and that's where I found a new love for entrepreneurship is being more of a investor in it.
Dope. So, uh, when we talk about your upbringings, how did when you talk about your environment and your upbringings, what were some of the things that you saw as you were coming up that, or what were some of the experiences that you had that was like, yo, this is the way that I need to go in terms of being an investor now.
Sure. Well, I wouldn't say, well, there's two pivotal points in my life. One, when I was probably 8, going back to like me being that person that sells stuff. That was when I was about probably 8 or so. My grandfather, he had like a farm or I don't know, a garden, but he'll grow watermelon, cantaloupe, and all that good stuff. And he's out in the country. When I say country twice, that means it's the real country,
It's
where
the
one
real
house every,
country.
yeah, one house every 15 miles kind of country. And so what he'll do is he'll grow, harvest, the watermelon, cantaloupe, and all that, and he'll take it either to the local grocery store and sell it there, or he'll pull up into a parking lot, open up his trunk, and sell it to the people who walking by. And so he'll bring me along with him, and he'll cut me off too. But there was even times where I remember during the fall around this time, because my grandmother's birthday is around Thanksgiving. I'll go down there, and that's where they'll also have pecan trees. And
Mm.
typically, that's when they start falling down.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
will always ask, "Hey, can I pick those up?" And he'll take me to the local grocery store. And what I'll do is I'll just literally sell it to the grocery store, and he'll give me like however much money. It could be $2 or $3, but when you're like 7, 8 or whatever, you don't money. You don't really know the value of money, but it was enough to at least buy me some candy without asking my mom for some money for, you know what I mean? And so that was like my first taste of commerce where I didn't have to I was able to make my own money without having to ask somebody else for something. And then fast forward into investing, my dad was the one that introduced me to stocks, and in college he kind of exposed me to investing in stocks. And we'll invest in invest in things like Microsoft and all
Mm-hmm.
that. But one of the questions I always had was, great, I'm glad I'm getting these stocks, but how can I get into them when they're much cheaper?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that, because when a lot of times when they're on the public market, they're a lot more inflated. You know, is there a way to get into it before it goes public? At the time, I didn't know nothing about venture capital. At the time, I didn't know nothing. And so fast forwarding, I made history at University of Delaware, where I founded the Entrepreneurship Student Club. And that was a way for me to, because again, a passion about entrepreneurship. My goal was because I knew that different disciplines come together to build
Mm-hmm.
something. It
Mm-hmm.
does. It is not always a business student, two business students who create something. Sometimes a business student, a fashion person, or an engineer that kind of come together to build something. And I wanted a platform to where students from different disciplines, different schools, to come together to discuss entrepreneurship at whatever capacity. And so as a result of that, I ended up meeting a venture capitalist, and that's kind of how and then many moons later, I ended up working for him. And that's how I really got in the world of like, oh, this is the beginning point of how to invest in these stocks before they go public. So that's how I was kind of connected the dots in terms of how I figured it out.
Man, so and you actually made a good point, because a lot of folks don't see college the same way as they used to. But for you, and can you
Yeah.
kind of like just talk about that? I want to get into a lot of other things, but
Yeah. Yeah.
college for you was pivotal because you
Yes, it
actually
was.
use entrepreneurial skills
Yeah.
while in college. Why was that so pivotal for you? And what could you tell some folks who are like kind of teeter-tottering between that decision of like, oh, I'm going to go to school, or I might not go to
Yeah.
school, or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah. Well, so great point. So a lot of times when I'm telling newbies who are getting into there, I say you should go to college for two things. And this is what the Ivy Leagues do. They're great at. You should go for build a network and get good grades. And the reason why you have to get good grades, because you can't build a network if you don't get good grades. And the reason why I
Mm-hmm.
say that, every teacher, professor there knows someone extremely successful,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of successful people at one point, whether they did good or not in college, came through their ranks, came through there, and they still have a good working relationship with them. But the best way to get in good with a lot of those individuals, you got to first do good in the class, so that way the teacher can respect you. And then after that, it's building those relationships while you're there, because I mean, you can literally, even I went to University of Delaware. There's a lot of people that you can get to at
Mm-hmm.
high levels,
Mm-hmm.
because someone there knows someone there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's people that knows Biden, right, very well there. And if you get in good with them, you're only like 1 or 2 degrees away from the president of the United States. It's that beneficial, and that's regardless of the school. I'm just talking about UD because I went there.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
But that is the benefit, is that not only do you get to learn stuff, but the real benefit is, how do you exercise or leverage what's there for your personal gain later on in your career, whatever that might be. That is the gem. People who graduate from Harvard, they leverage the network at Harvard to
Yes, they
to
do.
raise money for their startup or their private
Yep.
equity fund.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sole I mean, not to say that you don't learn anything from Harvard, you do, but the main tangible benefit is the network that you get by attending a university like that.
I want to stay there for 2 seconds.
Sure.
Networking, the power of it, right? Yours started young. Your grandpa knew somebody at the grocery store and was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, let me buy my grandson's
Yeah,
pecans, right?
basically. Yeah,
So
yeah,
the
yeah.
networking, just stay there real quick. For you in your life, how has networking enhanced what you do in the business world?
So one of my clients is Damon John of Shark Tank, right?
Mhm.
And that came through networking. That came from my experience at University of Delaware. When I
Mm,
started as the entrepreneurship club, I had a couple guest speakers. One was an inventor and a serial entrepreneur. Another one was a venture capitalist. And for and the reason why I mentioned both of them because the Venter introduced the venture capitalist to Damon John. This is pre Shark Tank. This is just
uh,
he's successful because of Fubu, and the venture capitalist used to put on events like entrepreneurial investor events.
mhm, mhm.
And he said, and I told him, I'm like, hey, I want an internship, and he's of course that type of guy. He's like free help, right? So he said, sure. And one of my biggest tasks were to find people at Howard High School, inner city kids, to come to DuPont Hotel to see Damon John speak, as well as be in the midst of this entrepreneurial activity, right? And it's because it's great exposure, it motivates people. And so that was my biggest task, as well as how about an event. And but he saw that I did that well, and I just kept that relationship.
Mhm.
And then fast forwarding, I know working for his firm, and he's also the same person that taught me the game of VC. But in the midst of
Mm.
that, that's when Damon John got called to be on Shark Tank. And that same VC, basically worked out a deal to say, hey, let us vet a lot of your deals. So at the time, he had the contract, and I would help him vet the deal.
Right.
So it was a
Right.
collaborative effort. Fast forwarding, unfortunately, he did pass away, and we had to sell the fund. But because of that relationship, because I was also doing already the work, it was an easy transition for me to take on the contract because they were already familiar with me. We've been working with them already for years, so it was an easier thing. But I'm saying that that happened because of the network I built about 15 years prior. You know what I mean? So, so I'm a huge advocate for networking. And even now, I'm getting into more of the private equity space. And so
Mhm.
I got to start from the ground up and building my network. And I will just say this because you already know part of the reason why I was a little tardy even getting on this call because I'm building my network
Mhm.
and there was a high level private equity guy who wanted to meet at a certain time, and I said, can I push you back because I don't want to
Absolutely.
go
I
back
get
and
it.
forth with this guy. I want to
Mhm.
say yes so I can meet with him. And
Mhm.
it was a great session. But that is the network. It's getting out and talking to people, doing the uncomfortable
Mhm.
when it comes to building your network. But yeah,
Mhm.
it is majorly important. I honestly don't think I can do anything without one little tip too. And here's another reason why we all see Microsoft as being this huge juggernaut, right?
Mhm.
Because of what they build. But what we forget is just like what my grandfather did for the grocery store for me, Bill Gates' mother knew the CEO of IBM and said, hey, why don't
Mm.
you let my son be your first why don't you be my son's client? You know what I mean? And so, like, how
What?
major is that? Where you can have IBM, you building a tech startup, and IBM is your first client because your mom made the intro. You see what I'm
Yo.
saying? If she didn't make that intro, will we? Maybe we still might know Microsoft. Who knows? But that definitely propelled the business.
Yo, and what's interesting is because I, I want to kind of unpack that a little bit, right?
Mhm.
His mom had the wherewithal to understand what
Yeah,
he
that
was
that that
doing
that's true.
in
That's
order
true.
to make that connection. How important, and Pedro, I know you have children, right? How important is it for you as a father to have that type of wherewithal to actually put your children in a position to have those same type of opportunities? How important is that?
I think it's extremely important. I mean, granted, everyone has different knowledge and different skill sets. So, but I feel like as a parent, you should make the road easier for your seed,
Agreed.
whatever road that is.
Agreed.
Um, in my kid, my parents don't know nothing about the world I be excuse me, that I'm playing in. They can't help me with that. They
Mhm.
probably don't even know how to help. But for them, the road to make easier is just make sure I have a good, solid, roof over my head, clothes, fed, and put me in a school. And then it's more of like I did my best. I don't know how to help you from there. You figure out the rest. But it's just they did what they can to make my road a little bit easier. And now my job, now that I know more, so I'm still doing education, but I'm more strategic. Like, hey, what are we really doing? Like, I'm more invested in, hey, what's the game plan for your career? So and I expect my boys to, when they have kids, to do the same thing. Keep making that road easier for your seeds. You know what I mean? So that way they can just keep advancing further and further and continue your legacy. So for me, I think it's majorly important. Majorly
Yeah,
important.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because it's the same thing for me over here and my daughter. I'm really big on her understanding her money, understanding how her
Yeah.
credit works. It's
Yeah.
just the small things that, and I know my parents did the best that they could with what they had, but it's just
Correct.
some things they just did not know, and we're obligated to feed this information to our children, and hopefully, like you said, build that road so that they
Yeah.
could be better, right?
Yeah.
I want to stay in the same family sense, right? I wanted you to, talk about the support that you get from your wife. Me as an entrepreneur, and I'm out here trying to make my own way. Like, dating is dating in
Yeah.
2023, right?
Yeah.
Could,
Yeah.
could you, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs who are single are going to watch this, so I really want to get your perspective on this. How has your marriage and you picking your person, right? How has that supported and been beneficial to your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, Jay-Z said a line, and I can't remember exactly how it goes. There was one time he was performing on stage. You may have heard it. And I know I'm going to butcher the line, but it was basically like, having a wife so you can, share your ideas with at night, or something
Right.
along those lines.
Hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because, and going down this road of building a business is chaotic. It's really is really, in essence, you have to be a little psychotic to start a business. And the reason why I say that is because the high failure rate, the difficulty in it. I mean, I think the statistic, like 50% of businesses fail. Like
Hmm.
if anything that you decide, like I'm looking at my TV, if there's a 50% chance my TV won't work, I would not buy that TV.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But here we are, even with that horrible statistic, we're still trying to go down that lane and beat the odds. So by me saying that is that you need because you're going to bang your head on a wall quite a few times, and you sometimes needed someone to say, "Okay, that's enough. Stop banging on your head. Talk to me. What we got to figure it out." And sometimes, depending on the spouse, that support may come differently.
Hmm.
Sometimes you may have hands-on spousal support. Sometimes you may not have that, but you may have more of the emotional support, and both of those are just as good.
Hmm.
Neither one's better than the other because you
Agreed.
need both. And
Agreed.
so and oh, matter of fact, I'll give you another good example too. Um, it all depends on the context of what you're doing. And there's no straight shot. But I was talking to a guy who sold a business. He
Hmm.
had a marketing agency. He sold that, and now he took that money and opened up a chain of restaurants. But he said that because even like the insurance, right? It's hard to be a solo entrepreneur and have insurance. But if you're married, it allows him to take on a lot more risk
Yep.
because he's able to do that. So there's just a lot of benefits when you go in a partnership. And this, as I'm thinking about it more, like I don't cook, right? I mean, I cook a little bit, but my wife mainly cooks.
Right.
And as I'm running through the day up and down, it's great to come home to a cooked meal.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Small
Don't
things.
get me, say it again.
Small things.
Yeah, it's small things. It's small things. So I'm a huge advocate of marriage to build this empire. That's actually always been my desire, is to have a marriage, have kids, to build this empire with. And I wanted to do it with somebody that I'm building it up with, because as who said it? Rick Ross. She wasn't with you shooting the gym. I want the wife with me shooting in the gym. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I want that because it's a shared experience. So she's going to be with me through my trials and tribulations. And she doesn't care if I take her to McDonald's, Cheesecake Factory, or Applebee's. You know what I mean? Like
The
that's
Cheesecake
irrelevant.
Factory.
Yeah, yeah. Actually we do go because she likes Cheesecake Factory. We go there. So she ain't judging me because of that. You know what I mean? But she's gonna be the main benefactor when things do hit. You know what I mean? As a result of that, and I appreciate that. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I'm a huge advocate for finding that partner, that spouse, to help you build.
Well, I haven't found that yet. And I know, Pedro, we've had many conversations about a lot of things, and I know that's one of them. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't found that person yet. So whoever's watching this podcast, I'm looking straight to the camera. Person, if you're out there, I'm waiting for you.
yeah.
So you obviously vetted a bunch of deals for Damon John on Shark Tank. Just
Mhm.
talk about, a lot of people see everything on the front in terms of TV, but they don't see what goes on the back end in terms of the actual deal and how long it might
Yeah,
actually take to
yeah,
go through. So just
yeah.
talk about that a little bit. Talk about how working with Damon John is, and then actually how long, what is the process of vetting one of those deals, and how long it actually takes to go through.
Sure. And I'm going to also include just vetting deals in general, even from the VC fund. I'm gonna include that because they're all the same thing. But so it all depends on the stage. But one of the things that stand out the most is, and I always advocate or always talk about this, is what is the practical problem or pain point that you're solving for an audience, a customer segment? What is that? I have to understand why you exist. And if you tell me, hey, I just wanted to do this, I'm not going to be sold on that. But if you tell me that, hey, Sally, a bunch of small business owners struggle with this, struggle with that, and I can create this, and that can solve the problem. That's the way I look at for me personally, I look at the audience, the target
Mhm.
audience, that's your customer. What is their pain point, and then how many of them have that pain point? Because that
Mm.
tells me how big it is. So let's just say, like, hey, you found out a great way to fix typewriters. Great, that's a practical problem. The issue is how many people own typewriters.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's why the two go hand in hand. So first, practical problem you solve. How many people solve that problem? Because that lets me know how big you can grow.
Mm.
After that, it's more of I look at your defensibility, meaning that, or AKA competitive advantage.
Okay.
Do you have, like, a lot of times Shark Tank deals, some of them may have patents around the actual product itself. That's a good
Mm.
defense. So as you're growing, if someone tries to duplicate what you do, you can sue them, right?
Yep.
But if you have no patent, it's okay. It's not the end of the world,
Mhm.
but you got to have another strategy. Maybe the strategy is you are great at direct to consumer marketing. You know how to build a great e-commerce engine, and you know
Mhm.
how to really capture an audience. You know what I mean? With minimal cost. Um, or you might have first mover advantage.
Mm.
Or you just know how to sell, or you have a into large corporate clients, and you're able to win. So it's a case by case scenario, but it's always like, okay, what is the competitive advantage? Why would someone flock to you
Mhm. Mhm.
compared to someone else? And what's the likelihood of someone kind of catching up to you?
Mhm.
Now we know competition exists, and we know people will
Right.
catch up, but it's more
Right.
of, it's like running a race. How big is that gap between you in first place and that person second? Can you crease that gap as much as you can before they
Mm.
catch you? And if so, that makes it even more exciting. And then the last part really is just is my VC mentor that taught me the game. He always says, and he got this from I forget which president it was, but trust but verify, because especially on shows like Shark Tank,
Absolutely.
they're on a TV show and they just trying to win a deal. And the same thing too, even with just traditional entrepreneurs trying to raise capital, they may lie. You know what I mean? And so, just to be straight direct with it, they just may lie, and say they have this, and you're
And they
excited
really
and
don't.
say yeah. There's been scenarios, people say they graduated from Yale, never did, never walked on campus. Say they have patents, never did. Say they have certain level of sales,
And they did
and
this on
don't.
TV.
Well, some of them are on TV, but the one about the greed that wasn't on TV. That was just
Okay.
a regular founder. But yeah, there's scenarios like that where people just lie, and then even too, how they spend their money. That's another thing. Like I was telling an entrepreneur the other
Mm.
day, it's you want to. It's like in a great team can play offense and defense. I look at offense as in generating sales.
Yep.
But defense is also managing your budget.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I have a friend that owns a restaurant. That's one thing I was telling her is that like, hey, you're great at offense. You know what I mean? You can knock it out the park, but your hole is defense, meaning that you don't know how to manage or spend your money properly or how to track it.
Ooh.
And so as
Ooh.
money is coming in, it's also going out just as fast.
Ooh.
And there's businesses that are doing $10 million and it could be doing $10 million in revenue, but are also blowing money. And
Mm.
so those are the things that we see behind the hood. And that's why like I don't like the internet gurus who just telling you like just click your heel 3 times and create an LLC. You can be like a multimillionaire. I was like, that's not even true. I can sometimes look at their profile and look at the business and get a good educated guess of how much revenue they're probably doing just based off
Ooh.
like the how they present themselves and even the context of their business. Because you hear people say, yeah, we're doing $1 million in sales. Don't get me wrong, doing 7 figures, that is a major accomplishment, but you still got a long road ahead of you to sustain it. You know what I mean?
Talk about that. Talk about that, Pedro. There's a ton of internet gurus, bro. So when you're,
Yeah,
especially with your type of knowledge, right? How when you're looking at the internet or YouTube or whatever, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you because I know your knowledge. When
yeah,
you see that, bro, what are this whole just social media and business gurus, bro? Just your
yeah.
overall thoughts and opinions, bro.
Yeah, I hate it. I feel like I mean there's some aspects of it I like, but I hate it because I feel like especially I'm gonna just talk for our community. I feel like it's like black on black crime, but just no guns
Mm.
involved. And
Mm.
because excuse me, people we get mad at our counterparts exploiting us, but we're literally doing the same exact thing. I remember seeing one ad one time talking about like, and they're using the words, yeah, you run up a bag and you go to one credit card, and you run up. That's not a bag. That's debt.
Stop. Hold on 1 second. Yes, I'm absolutely shooting a commercial in the middle of my podcast. That's exactly what I'm doing. But you guys know Elon Musk is over there tripping over at Twitter. So what did Instagram do? They created their own version of Twitter called Threads. I need you guys to stop real quick and go follow me on Threads. Go follow me on Threads right now. Malcolm Locks on Threads. I need you guys to go follow me. I post a whole bunch of good content over there. Of course, gaming, business, entrepreneurship, and of course, artificial intelligent news over on my Thread. So, yes, once again, I'm shooting my own commercial in the middle of my own podcast. But hey, it is what it is, right? So, yeah, go follow me on Threads. Malcolm Locks on Threads right now. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not a bad, but the way they're advertising it, like it's a cool thing. And what happens is, because this is just basic marketing, repetition. If you have someone of influence, and influence basically means a lot of people know you,
Mm-hmm.
keep saying the same thing, you subconsciously believe it. And so you have people saying, go out, get an LLC, go get these trade lines, go get this, go to this bank, get this loan, get these credit cards,
It's
and this
not
is how you're
that
gonna run up a
easy.
bag, and this is how you're gonna run up a bag, and this is how you're gonna get your ROI. No, that's how you want to go. That's how you're gonna go declare bankruptcy, right? Because there's no conversation about how to generate revenue. The focal point is how to go
Mm.
in debt. That is not success. Even in the world of venture, a lot of times you see it too. Mark Cuban said that I had one of my post on Instagram post about how we have a lot of TechCrunch really did this where they made it really popular to raise capital. Don't get me wrong, there is a little bit of level of accomplishment because if you do raise capital, especially from the series VCs,
Mm.
that is a stable accomplishment. But it's not. It's one of those things where you celebrate, but now you got to really get to work.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because you owe
Right.
people money. That's the
Right.
thing. You owe people money, and that's why it's something. Yes, you do want to take a moment to celebrate that you got funding, but after that, you got to go to work because you owe people money. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And so this whole thing of just getting in debt, um, and I advised a lot of businesses too. Most businesses don't need a certain amount of a lot of loans or debt. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
I agree.
You know, if you just think more strategically, you may be able to get a lot of stuff you need, or delay what you need, and just use cash to eventually finance, or down the road use some kind of credit to help
Mm-hmm.
grow. But that, and there's other stuff too. Just talk about getting LLCs, and just as a blanket statement, and a lot of people think I'm against LLCs. I'm not. I'm just against making LLCs a god where you are nobody unless you have an LLC. And I'm a big believer, because I know I've worked on deals. I mean, they eventually had to get incorporated, but I worked on deals where they're a sole proprietor,
Mm.
meaning they're not an LLC, they're not a C corp, but they're doing $500,000 or more in sales selling product. So
Mm.
my point in saying all that is that they have the same governance, you know what I mean, of a LLC, but they just weren't incorporated. So the LLC is not the holy grail. It's just
Right.
a tool to help the business on whatever capacity, or just any
Mm.
corporation, because there's B corps out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's C corps. Especially if you want to raise money from VCs, you can't be an LLC. So just having
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah, that's why I don't like it, because I focus on strategy first, and then figure out what is the best corporate structure, and even figure out strategy. Sometimes you got to figure out if even the world even wants your product. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And you might want to do that before you incorporate and do all that stuff. So there's just so many things that should happen before you select what type of entity structure you should have. But I just hate it, because they just tell you, oh, you're worthless unless you have an LLC, unless you go into get a loan for $100,000. Like, you're not an entrepreneur unless you do that. And it's just that whole, and it's feeding people the wrong stuff, basically.
I it's so funny that you said that, because that actually, I'm kind of entering into like kind of startup type
Hmm.
space, right? I did not know, and there's so much misinformation out on
Yeah,
Instagram or
yeah,
YouTube or whatever. How do you, well, Pedro, you have the knowledge, right? But to
yeah,
somebody who doesn't have that knowledge, how could they even begin to decipher from what's real and what's not? Like, where do you, I
yeah,
mean, obviously you do
yeah,
your research, but like, where do
yeah.
you go?
That's a great question, and a hard question to answer, because everybody's comes from different backgrounds. Everybody's located different places. But I would say, May if you hear something, maybe you have to go fact check from someone local. And when I say someone local, I do know this, that this is a government funded program. It's called the acronym is SBDC. There's that, and and I think that
Small
every
Business
almost
Development Center.
center, yeah, that, and I think every town has a women's business center.
Yep.
But even though it says women's business center, many of them can work with men too,
Right.
in regardless of the race. But I'm saying that to say, reason I'm giving this answer, because I don't know where everybody comes from, and I just want to give like a general solution. But if you hear something, go fact check from one of those vehicles, because one, they're free of charge, and but they're not trying to sell you a course, so they have a different motive. So they can kind of tell you, oh no, you may not want to do that, or yeah, or maybe say that is correct, but maybe you need to do this first, kind of thing. So those are some good, and these a lot of them are experts. So those are good. Those are some good starting points. But then even beyond that, I guess, yeah, this is not maybe a straight answer, but maybe find people that don't have like a huge social media following,
Mm.
who look normal. Actually, posted a picture on my Instagram the other day, and see if I got it. Oh, it was on my story, and basically it was a picture of 1,000 likes, 200 followers, a thought leader, And then it was another dog where he's sitting down, no social media presence, but runs $100 million company. So
Mm.
I'm saying other to say that there are people who don't maybe have 6 followers, but the way our people are designed, you ain't gonna follow them. But that person might be worth $10 million. And they've done what you're trying to do and may be open. If you maybe take them to dinner or lunch, you pay for it. They may be open to just drop the whole game on you free of charge and not think twice about it.
Can I tell you how true that is? So
Yeah.
a couple of weeks, me and my boy Steve that we run Futures First Gaming with.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even know if you've seen it, Pedro, but maybe like a week or two ago, I posted the CEO of Twitch. We took a picture with the CEO of Twitch
I
and
did
we
see
had a
that.
conversation with him. And if you go to his Instagram, he got like 1,000 followers. And I know for a fact this man is worth millions and he runs a
Exactly.
multi-million-dollar
Yeah.
company. And
Yeah.
like, it's just so crazy. If you see the way he dressed and you see what
Yeah.
he's into, and you just
Yeah.
look at him, you just be
Yeah.
like he
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just disheveled. He looked disheveled with like a cowboy hat on, with like cowboy jeans, and I was just like, this man runs a multi-million-dollar company. He has not even 1,000 followers on Instagram. So everything that you're saying is 100% true,
Yes,
bro.
yes.
100% true.
And another hack too is that if they have such a low following, that means they're the ones managing that social media profile. So if you reach, if let's just say you want to meet or connect with somebody, the likelihood of them responding is much greater. Is
Mm.
much greater because they are you know what I mean? It's managed by them, and it's more. If you come correct, there is a highly likelihood of them responding, and now you have a chance to connect and build with that person. Excuse me. So I'm
Man.
a huge advocate of like the guy I mentioned earlier who sold a marketing agency, and I think he now owns 6 restaurants that connected with yesterday. I don't think he has no major social media following, but he's a well-knowledge guy, wealthy guy. And he's accessible. He's accessible. So that is another path. If you trying to go down a certain industry or certain business, finding those people who are successful in real life, right? And engage with them, and don't do something where you treat them to dinner and you have them pay. No, you ask them where do they like to eat. You and even if it's expensive, save up for a little bit and then go, because that is an investment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Look at it as an investment to gain some knowledge from them and relationships from them.
So I'm glad that you talked about paying for dinner and gaining the investment. It's a good segue to my next question. Mentors, right? And
Hmm.
specifically, when Black people, I 100% love us, but what happens is that I keep turning my microphone down. What happens is that, and what I've seen, even I've defaulted to this, right? Me as a
Hmm.
Black man, doing what I can to elevate in certain spaces, I tend to look for, and you give me your opinions once I
Hmm.
give you the context. I tend to look for Black people that are in this space that are doing or that are at where I'm at, right?
Yeah.
Which is great. But then
Yeah.
I also learned that we have to go outside of our norm. When you
Yeah.
talked about earlier about growth being uncomfortable, that's outside of our norm, right? Can you
Correct.
talk about
Correct.
how, number one, how important a mentor is, and then number two, how important it is for you to have mentors outside of your norm?
Yeah, yeah. So I agree with that 100%. If I could just be candid, that private equity individual I was talking with right before you and he was a white male.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And
And
he's not necessarily.
they be ready to give you all the game.
Oh, they were. And he was. And actually, and the downside was that we only had a scheduled 30-minute session. It wasn't enough. So the nice part
Mm,
is he already said, Pedro, like, I'm gonna send you my information and all that. Follow up. You have questions, ask. I love it. Just keep going and keep me in the loop, kind of thing. And he's not. And the reason I'm saying that because he's not selling the course.
right.
He is attached to something, but it's more genuine. It's more of, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And I believe that you need mentors, and I think sometimes we look at it as we need a mentor, an all-in-one mentor, but I don't think that exists. You
Mhm.
need a mentor for every part of your life. You need a mentor where if you do want to get married, someone that's been there, done that, that can kind of be that can kind of be that example for you. If you need a mentor for even raising kids, someone for that. If you need a mentor to how to run a specific business, you need a mentor for that. If you need a mentor, even for other different aspects of the business,
Mhm.
you need an arsenal of mentors. And the reason why, because that all-in-one mentor is not going to be able to give you every single thing, because every business and every journey is going to be slightly different. And one guy might be able to add value in this one aspect of the
Mhm.
business, but that's it. But another guy might be able to provide a lot of access in this side of the thing. So, for example, let's just say you had a mentor to help you grow the business, but now you're at the
Mm.
phase to sell. But the mentor that you're
Mm.
talking to help you grow it, they never sold a business before. So you may have to bring
Mm.
in another mentor that say, like, hey, have you ever sold a business? Oh yeah, I did. I sold too. So you gotta listen to, you gotta eat the meat, spit out the bones.
Mhm.
But based off where you are, you're gonna need more than one, basically.
Dang, yo, Page. Oh man, I'm so glad I talked to you, Pedro. You should be giving game, bro. Giving game on top of
I
game.
appreciate
Now
it.
before I get into like a slew of my other questions, I want to tie this into my next questions. Obviously, we talk a lot about generative AI and just
Mhm.
artificial intelligence as a whole. What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? How does it affect the way that you do business?
Yeah, I think either you or Nudie actually use this analogy, and I'm going to use this. I said I'm in favor of it because it's like a second brain. I think I don't know if it was you or Nudie said it,
I'm
something like that. Well,
100% sure. That was 100% me.
you okay? So then you said it. So I want to use that because I think that was a great explanation of how to use it. It's not a replacement.
Mhm.
It's not it's a an addition to something. It's a way. Now, even last night we were talking about generative AI, and we were just talking about how that it's just used to man, somebody use it a great it helps you, instead of doing a lot of the time wasted on research. It allows you to focus more on the critical thinking aspect of things. You know what I mean? And so, like, even I had to use ChatGPT this morning to come up with some questions for this event coming up next week, and I didn't have the time to really just sit down. I did think about a couple, but I just put it in there, and then it gave me some. I did tweak it a little bit, but I didn't have to waste hours
Right.
trying to brainstorm, and I was able to do that real quick. That way I could prepare both of my call, even my session with you, versus tripping for like an hour and a half and still not even
Mhm.
have these basic questions, especially, I sometimes overthink stuff. And so, that could have been like a whole day project, you know what I mean? But it was
Yes.
done in like 5 minutes, you know what I mean? So I feel like it helps. And like we were talking about before the podcast, even with your, if I could mention your new endeavor, possibly we're
Mhm.
helping
Absolutely.
helping small business owners using AI, because a lot of times they're in the business day to day. Their website probably sucks, their
Mhm.
marketing probably sucks, because they're great bakers, they're not great marketing gurus, and they don't have the finances to pay a marketing firm. And sometimes, just like trying to find a great plumber, you have one great plumber, but the other one probably sucks. So it's the same
Mhm.
thing with trying to find a marketing agency. One may work and one may not, but you blew money. But you can find an AI tool to, especially like something really simple, like a mom and pop shop, or
Mhm.
even if it's a little bit more mature business, an HVAC company. That's straightforward, right? You can find good AI tools to help you streamline certain functions, whether it's marketing, whether it's AI, whether it's because at this day and point, like, you literally can, for any function, you can find something for, you
Anything,
know.
anything.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're saying a lot of that, Pedro, because what I found, about our group, and I'll telling this to the podcast, Spending Black Matters.
Hmm.
30,000. We got 30,000 Black entrepreneurs in that group. What is the hesitation with black and brown businesses using tech. I just see it so much across the board. And we've talked about this where other cultures are so far ahead in this particular conversation. And it's just like we're scared to
Mhm.
press a button. What do you think the hesitancy is behind
Yeah,
us using the
good
tech,
question.
really learning deeper about this particular industry? Because I know, I mean, obviously there's pros and cons to everything,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
But
mhm.
we're focusing on all the good. What where's the hesitancy?
That's a great question, and I don't know if it's a culture thing. As you think about like mental health, right? At one point, you going to a therapist, like you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Like you don't need no therapy. You just go do some push-ups and drink some Robitussin. You'll be fine, right?
It was frowned upon.
And
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, it's frowned upon, and so I think it's just the idea of accepting. And also too, I think the other thing is too, if we rewind back, especially in I'm gonna use the venture world as an example. Even though it is starting to become more diverse,
Hmm.
we still got a long shot behind that. But a lot of the wealth that in our communities that have been created, excuse me, it has been old money. It's been owning multiple franchises. It's been owning real estate. It's been that old school money. So there has been, and then with that type of parenting, it's like, oh no, don't touch that. You don't want to, because it's ignorance in a sense of I don't know what it is, I don't understand it, and we didn't have a lot of tech people around us growing up.
Hmm.
So I feel as a result of that, because we didn't have people want to be engineers growing up. So no one and I think just in tech, when you say tech in general, if someone does not like it, they reject it, or doesn't
Hmm.
understand it, they reject it.
Yep.
And so for our black and brown people who grew up in the 90s and early 2000, you know, career pathways and all that, most people didn't really go into the STEM as a career pathway. You know what I mean? And so as a result, you're just fearful because you don't know what it is. However, today there's a huge influx of people. So I feel like in time there'll be more acceptance to it, but we're kind of in this phase of yes, I like it, no, I don't like it, and we're kind of in that mix a little bit. But I don't have an exact reason why, but my guess is because I don't know it and I don't understand it, and so as a result, I don't touch it.
Mm,
That's
mm.
what I believe.
100%, 100% agree. That's absolutely what I've been seeing is just like, oh, I don't know. And I won't even go as far as like artificial intelligence or just using apps, AI applications, right? I even go back as far as Facebook ads and Instagram ads
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
paid media. Like
yeah,
I go back that far where it's just like, oh, go to the back end of Facebook and do some paid media. What? Oh, it didn't work. I spent $20 one time and I didn't get any conversion.
yeah.
So,
Because all
oh,
they did
I'm
was
not.
just boost it. Yeah.
Yay, all you did was boost it. So it's even with that, just going back as far as that. And Facebook ads have been around since about 2009. And I'm just
Hmm,
it's
hmm.
2023 now, and people are still like, I'm not doing this because it didn't work when I boosted the post. So to me, I just really want to give people that education so that they can
Yeah,
learn and be
yeah.
willing to use it. You talked about how venture capital is starting to become more and more diverse. Talk to the people about, venture capital as a whole for you. How has it helped you learn
Mhm.
about business as a whole? Because I know you said your mentor was in venture capital. He kind of taught you the game. How has that shaped your business career?
Yeah, I think that actually has transformed the way I think about entrepreneurship in general. That's the reason why I'm a
Ooh.
huge advocate of it. So, and the main difference is whenever someone pitches, we always want to know what's their exit plan.
Mm.
So you build with the end in mind, and that's what I took
Mm.
from that. Because because as VCs we make our money. Same thing with private equity. We make our money from when the business is sold. So we have to hear or see a path to an exit. And the reason why I say that is because when you think of small businesses, that's where a lot of us, minorities play at. We never think about selling.
No.
but wealth is created on the exit. That
Ooh.
is how wealth is created. And another
Ooh.
reason why I'm gonna drop this gem, I shared this in another podcast, and this is another reason why too, with this new journey of private equity I'm trying to do, where I give employees ownership in the business, but it's the principle of that's why I say that entrepreneurship doesn't really close the wealth gap. And even though they talk about it, but it's business equity close the wealth gap, and business
Mm.
equity and growth companies that grow in value. Because if you're just a mom and pop shop, meaning that like if you put yourself as a buyer, if you're buying a bakery and the only person that can bake is the owner, but you know if you buy the business, the owner disappears, how valuable is that business anymore? Compared to if you buy a business, even though there's an owner that knows how to bake, there's five other people that know how to bake, and the owner's in Bermuda, at least 6 days, 6 months out the year,
Right.
but they're still generating a few $1 million a year in revenue. That has a higher valuation simply because it's running on autopilot, even though the owner is not there. You see what I'm saying? The
Mm.
owner can be there too. It's kind of like the rich dad poor dad about the whole cash flow quadrant, where you have business owner. The best businesses to buy are when the business owner is in that, where they're in that business owner phase, where whether they're in there or not, the business is still running.
Is that for you? Is that as a venture capitalist? And that was actually one of my questions. Is that the best time to invest at that point? When is the best time to invest or put your money into a business in
Sure.
that way?
That's a great question. Startups and small businesses are kind of a different animal.
Hmm.
So that example I gave was more for like small business. But to answer your question for startups, it all depends on your value add. Um, there's a couple stages in venture. So you have this seed, which sometimes can be pre-seed or whatever. But
Right.
excuse me, this early seed stage. Then you have this Series A and Series B, and all it is just a series with the alphabet, and you just keep going
Hmm.
until you go public or be bought. But each fund raises a money to play in one of those fields.
Mm.
So when you ask the question, when is the best time to invest? It comes down to the skill set of the investor, meaning that seed stage is a little bit more early.
Hmm.
So seed might require more support from the
Mm.
VC. It might need more like, hey, let me connect you to here. Hey, let me give you some more advice. Let me put you in an accelerator as well, or something. It might require more hands-on approach. And if that is something that you have and you're good at, that's the stage that you want to be in. But Series A, Series B is more for growth. The assumption
Ah.
is that you already know how to get there. You just need the money to go out and hire the right people to help you accelerate. So that role might be, I mean, you're always hands on a little
Mhm.
bit, but it might be a little bit more hands off, and you're adding more strategic support and maybe an introduction here and there, whatever is needed. But theoretically, a good business, you kind of you invest, you check
Mhm.
in, and then you kind of back off. That's a
Right.
good business, and you want to see them grow. And so
Do
in
you help
those,
with? Do you help? Are you as a investor? Are you helping with that scalability, or are you hands off?
are you asking me personally, or are you just saying in general, like
Yeah,
how investors work?
just it for you and in general.
Yeah, so it depends on the stage. Well, the short answer to your question, yes. Anytime you cut a check in a company, if you can add value because you got money in there. So even if you invested a small amount of money, but they need a contact to a Fortune 500 company,
Mhm.
and your uncle is the CEO of that, go ahead and make
Right.
the introduction, because
Right.
even if you put $1,000 in there, your $1,000 could flip one day because you made this introduction to this Fortune 500 CEO or something like that. So always, my belief is always find a way to add value, whatever that might be. So and your job as a VC is to pick them and to assess how can you add value? Is this going to be a play where they, for example, like let's just say there's a entrepreneur who already sold a company and this is their next one. You might not need to be involved that much, other than hey, talk to so and so, or hey, what do you need help with?
Mhm.
Kind of situation, because they've been there, done that, and so you might be able to be more standoffish.
Man, oh man. So this is just you just give me so much information. This is stuff that
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't even know. No, so I'm glad we having this conversation. So do you feel like you was talking about diversification in VC? Where as a black and brown person, right? How could we get into VC? What do we need to save our money? Do we need to be partnering with folks? How exactly do you see a black person getting into venture capital and then being successful in this particular field?
Yeah. So, well, one way, well, so it all depends on what, how do you want to play in the venture world? So you can play by working for a startup company. You can play by, I mean, honestly, you'll probably have a better track record to work for a startup company than a VC, because there's not a lot of VC firms, and even if there, even with the ones there are, it's not like there's a lot of job opportunities to work for one. Not saying that don't try, but it's just that the basic economics of there's a small portion of VC firms, and there is a plethora of startups that need help. And VC firms are becoming more popular, so everybody in
Mhm.
their mind want to be a VC. So it just makes it more competitive. Still, try your luck if that's where you really want to go. You just got to figure out what's your strength and what's your value add. But I always tell people, first study the game, understand it,
Mm.
because one thing that can really destroy you is your lack of knowledge. If they throw
Oh.
out a term and you're not familiar with it, they may not say nothing to you, but they're going to discard you. You know what I mean? Because I mean, it
Mm.
happened with me sometimes as I'm learning. Because when I got in the game, I was clueless about it, and I kind of learned while doing.
Mhm.
And but they will discredit you a lot, and it may
Mm.
shoot you in your foot as you're trying to go in. But if you go into a lens from a startup founder where and you're part of a company that raises capital, that gives you good exposure, even though you're not
Mhm.
necessarily a VC. But
Mhm.
after you transition out of that startup, you now have a good skill set that you can provide as a value add as a VC, is your operational support. From the point of view of how to build a company and raise capital.
Mhm.
So when you invest, you now know how to provide support for the entrepreneur to grow because you've been in their shoes. And so that's just so just a couple of different ways to kind of think about how to attack
So man, I just feel like I could keep talking to you for days, Pedro. My bad.
it.
So what for you personally, and what in your beliefs, I did want to kind of touch on how your faith kind of gives you guidance in terms of how you make some of your business decisions. What kind of criteria does that affect what your business decisions? And if so, what type of criteria utilizing your faith do you use to evaluate a startup before you invest in it? So, you guys know how hard it is to get subscribers on YouTube, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get more subscribers on YouTube. So, if you're watching this podcast, just take a moment, go to Malcolm Locks on YouTube and go subscribe. Just go ahead and hit that bell over at YouTube and subscribe. You'll be able to see this podcast, all my gaming stuff, all my conversations, and so much more on my YouTube. So, all I need you to do is just go and subscribe. Hit that little button. I will greatly appreciate it if you did. Thanks.
Yeah, so yes and no, and when I say faith is that because some things are just technical things
Mhm.
that I gotta look at a financial plan. I don't necessarily have to pray about that or anything like that. I just gotta there's certain check boxes. But to answer your question, well, one, my faith walk is it's not just what business is the whole overall my lifestyle. And so as I'm doing deals, one thing. So here's the hardest part of investing is because the Bible talks about that man looks at the outward appearance, where God looks at the heart. Right?
Mhm.
We don't have the ability to see someone's true intentions,
Mm.
and so that is the hardest part of investing in someone else, is understanding their true intention. And so because they can have everything that looks great, but After you give them money, people's personality change, right?
Mm.
So the thing that I kind of, I don't always get it right, but I ask the Lord to help me with is discernment, is to basically see their intentions without, what I mean, bring that to the forefront so that
Yep.
way I can kind of reveal their true character, and that will let me know how I do business with that person or not. And so that for me, that's one of the biggest asks. I'm a people's guy, and
Mhm.
I'm in the people's business, is trying to, because again, we don't see the heart, only God does, but is asking God, like, hey, bring that heart outward more so I can discern whether it's a good fit. So in other words, like asking God
Mm.
to kind of like, hey, if he ain't the person I should be doing business with, push him to the side. You know what I mean? And so that right there is the biggest thing for me, is how to read people. And that's where, because it's really impossible, but that's where I lean on the Lord a lot for that aspect.
Yeah, I just know so many people who are on spiritual journeys. That's why I wanted to ask that
Yeah,
question, because I know for you and your family, it's a lifestyle as opposed to, oh, I just have this in front of me and I'm going to just talk to God right at this moment because I have this for me. And for you, it's a
yeah,
lifestyle that you embrace every single
yeah,
day, which is
yeah.
why I wanted to ask you that question.
And I will
Um,
add too, is that because sometimes I've done favors for people, didn't charge anything like that because the Lord, put on my heart to bless someone, and so I have done that on numerous occasions, and sometimes that can be, either as advice, either as a connection, or something. Just say, hey, here you go, and for them it's life changing, but for me it was just the Lord touched me to help them out in some capacity.
Man, that's good stuff, bro. That's good stuff. I wanted to real quick just
Mhm.
touch on franchising, because I know we had talked about that earlier. Just give
Yeah.
folks a idea of franchising, what it is to franchise, and how someone could get into franchising if that's the direction that they want to go.
Sure, sure. So there's, I'm gonna speak about two of them because two directions: a franchisee or franchisor. I'm gonna first speak about franchisee. Franchisee is a great path, and depending on if you have a mindset that you like infrastructure already built and you want to be an entrepreneur, there's a system already in place, and that's a great way to build wealth. Like, I don't know if you know, but the Dunkin' Donuts in the Christiana Mall is black owned. Did you know about that?
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's black owned. My father, the family, the original owner, he's from Chester. My father grew up with him, and so he owns also the one
Networking
near
all day,
Christiana.
boy.
Yeah, he owns the one. He owns like six of them, I believe. The one near Christiana skating ring. I think the one also
They just
behind.
made that one by Christiana skating ring, right? Is that a brand new
I
one?
think I think that one been there for a while. They may have renovated it maybe,
Okay.
but I think that one been there for a while. And I think he also owns the one behind the Christiana Hospital too, and he has some others, couple other places. But my whole thing of building wealth is it can be whatever. It could be a tech startup, a small business. It could be a franchise. It can be an invention, whatever it is. Turn that business to an asset where eventually you don't have to clock in all the time in order to make money. Simply put. And so that is where you can build. And I feel like that's a great avenue for people who like monopoly, where you
Mhm.
have you have a monopoly mindset where you can kind of, this would be a good location. Because in startup world, building a startup, that's a little bit more innovative thinking, and not
Right.
everyone has that personality. So a franchise would be great for great operators who are good at plugging and playing. But another thing that I want to do, because I helped two people here in the state of Delaware become our franchisors. Franchisors are like you are the McDonald's, and you go out and find franchisees. That is the
Oh,
holy grail. That is
people don't
where.
even think about that though.
No, not at all. And but I help two local. I'm gonna shout them out. One is Candy Connection. So
Hey,
check
shout out to
check check
Candy
check.
Connection.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the other one is they don't really make it a noise yet, but I'm gonna shout them out. TR Fit, Total Resistant Fit.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so
TR,
so
shout out
I
to TR
connected
Fit.
them to a person to. So they are now. First of all, there's not a lot of black owned franchisors. Number one, not a lot, and it's probably less than 20 throughout the whole nation. And we have
What?
two franchisors in the state of Delaware. So
Ah.
if you want a TR, if you want to be able to take a TR fitness program and take it to your area, let's just say Lower Delaware,
Mhm.
you can do that now. Same thing with a Candy Connection, you can do that now. And but the reason why I say that is because especially when you have a brick and mortar kind of model, it's a great way to scale it because by simply doing that, it grew the value of their business. Because if one
Mm.
day they were to sell it, even if they never landed a franchisee, but if they were to sell it one day, the person buying it can not only make money locally by just having members to go come to the gym, but they now have the opportunity to put shops in New Mexico and California and New York and blah 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 and collect royalties as a result of that. And so that is a great path where you turn the infrastructure that you already have, and you scale it upward by turning into a franchising system, and where your franchisees will now pay you royalties. So I wanted to shout them out because I admire them a lot, and I'm really proud of them because they can now build a great business. And then one day I talk about exit, and then one day they could sell it to a large company or a private equity
Ah.
shop, because and they can get them probably a higher multiple because they set their business up to scale, basically.
Yo, Pedro. I didn't even know that it was. I just thought it was franchisee. I didn't even think about
Oh yeah,
franchise
it's two
or.
components to it. Yeah, yeah. Because even as a franchisee, you gotta like if you want to open up a McDonald's, you have to you're a franchisee. McDonald's Corp is the franchisor of it all.
Mm.
They're the franchisor of it all. You know what I mean? And so I mean, same thing with Wendy's. There's a franchise. In other words, the franchisor is the one that created the program for you to duplicate.
Right.
That's their intellectual property. That's the business plan. So you don't have to worry about figuring out a business plan. They already created for you, and you just invest in it, and then you pay them royalties because they give you the marketing, they give you the products, the equipment to help run the business. So, but yeah, that's two components of it.
That is actually franchise or that's where it's at right there. If you got all the
Yeah,
components right and
yeah,
together
yeah.
in order for you to do that, that's a golden ticket.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like I
Shit.
said, Dunkin' Donuts. There is a Dunkin' Donuts Corporation is the franchisor, and then the gentleman that I know that's a franchisee, he has to pay royalties to Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I mean? So that's just the name of the game. But he also makes money too. He's a very well off guy.
Right, right,
He
right, right.
already got his family involved in everything. So and there's nothing wrong with being a franchisee, and there's nothing wrong with being a franchisor. Just what game you want to play in.
Yo, Pedro, real quick before we
Yeah.
end. Good grief, but Pedro didn't drop so many gems. I'm gonna really push this podcast because you drop gems on top of gems, bro. You're the in-house entrepreneur at Delaware State. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
no, or
No,
entrepreneur
entrepreneur in
in
residence.
residency?
Yeah, entrepreneur in residence
So
at Delaware State University.
yeah, tell the folks what that is, what you doing there, and how that came about, real quick.
Sure, sure. Well, basically, what I do there is I help. I have a passion for our community, right? And I want them to level up their knowledge. You know what I mean? Just like what I'm doing with you, sharing knowledge. And my hope is that because I that's what helped me was knowledge. My hope is that someone takes it and run with it, and whatever that might be. And so with that being said, like I do workshops. I bring in people from my network to come talk to more students. And I also do one-on-one sessions if a student really wants to help, but it's just more of just trying to give them access to someone that's kind of been out in the business world for them to extract information from to help them. And because when I was a student at UD, I didn't get that really, unfortunately.
Right.
And so that's basically my role. But how it came about that was with Lily Crawford down there.
Shout
I've
out to
been
Miss
teaching
Lily.
her. Yeah, shout out to Miss
Yeah.
Lily, and I've been teaching excuse me, her stock investment class for a few years. And I think there was, I'm not sure when this happened, but there was a moment where they were doing this new initiative with the garage. I know I think it was post the pandemic. they had this new initiative with the Garage Center, which is like a co-worker slash maker space where people can kind of go downstairs and collaborate. And they wanted some more energy around it. They wanted to kind of, and that's what they brought me in with because of my knowledge of venture and all that. And so that's how it came in. So since Lily already had a prior relationship with me, and also shout out to Troy as well because she
Oh yeah,
kind
shout
of
out to Miss
helped
Troy. Yep.
put everything together, bringing me in, and then of course Lily already knowing me because I teach her stock investment class. So it was an easy sell to the business school because I had Lily and Troy to endorse me to be their entrepreneur in residence.
Man, great program. Pedro, you brought us over there to speak. So great
Yes.
program, great things that you got going on over there. But yeah, we already been talking for a whole hour, bro.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I
Like I
ain't gonna
said,
keep you
you and I can
forever.
talk. We can talk for
Yeah, we
days
can we can
almost.
talk for days about all this stuff. So real quick, Pedro, tell the folks where to follow you, how to get in touch with you if they want to
Yeah.
do bits with you, how do they tap in?
Yeah. Well, Instagram, Pedro_Moore. You can hit me up on LinkedIn as well, Pedro Moore. Same thing with Twitter. Or you can just if to make it easy, you can just go to pedromore.com where I'll have all my social media there. But yeah, I would love to connect. And I also have a podcast called Earn Interest. You can check that out, earninterest.com. But yeah, you can feel free to hit me up and that way we can talk and figure out how we can help, how I can help.
So if you wanted somebody to take one thing from the entirety of us talking, what do they need to take from this?
Um, so I have a saying, and that is, make friends with money.
Ooh.
So I use that as my tagline on my podcast too. Make friends with money. In other words, as you're an entrepreneur, part of your they don't teach this, but part of your job is to find money. And money can be customers, money can be, funding. You know what I mean? But part of your role as the entrepreneur is to constantly build relationships with money, whatever money might be. So that way it makes your job even easier to grow your business. So always make friends with money.
Who shout out to Pedro Moore for coming on the Principal Protocol and dropping
Yeah.
gems the whole time. Thank you so much for
Oh,
coming,
you're very
brother. And
welcome. Thank you.
we're gonna tap in soon, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yep. All right. This is the Principal Protocol. It's your boy Malcolm Locks everywhere. And we out, y'all.
Peace.